Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
J-Love, I'm doing great. How you doing?
Always making it happen, big man. Our guest today is Kevin Bupp, and Kevin jumped right into real estate investing at the age of 20. This turned out to be a good move for him because for more than 13 years, he's been investing and consulting with tremendous results and has completed over $40 million in real estate transactions. At one point, he even owned a mortgage company. Currently, Kevin is a candidate for CCIM, which happens to be the highest commercial real estate designation available. Today, we'll take a deep dive into creating cash flow and what it takes to build successful businesses. So without further ado, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jake and Gino, thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Happy to have you, and let's get right into it. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got started at such an early age into real estate investing?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was pretty much I started off my life as a terrible student, and I was really bad in high school and didn't really have any direction of what I wanted to do after high school. I had a lot of friends that went away to college, but I just knew it would have probably been a waste of my parents' money if I would have gone off to school. And so I attended a local community college, again, with no direction, just taking classes, not really knowing what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. While I was in college, I was tending bar part-time, having a lot of fun. So, partying, going to school, still getting terrible grades, so there still wasn't really much of a future for me. And I got really lucky. I was dating a girl at the time, and her mother had been recently divorced, and she started dating a gentleman who ended up being a local real estate investor. And long story short, he was about 25 years my senior, and I befriended him one day, actually over a period of time, but we ended up spending an entire day on a boat together by accident. And I got to learn a little bit about him and his background and his business. And he must have saw something in me. He must have saw some kind of desire to do more with my life. And from that point forward, he kind of took me underneath his wing without me even asking or without him offering. It just kind of happened. We became good friends, and he invited me to a boot camp in Philadelphia. I'm from Pennsylvania originally, and so he invited me to a 3-day boot camp on how to fix and flip homes down in Pennsylvania. I think I was 19 at the time. Maybe I don't remember what the exact months, but I wasn't 20 yet. And anyway, he took me there, and I didn't know anything about real estate. I had never read a real estate book. I never even really thought about real estate at that point in time. And I went there, and I was just amazed at what kind of money could be made. At that point, I was only worried about money, right? I was like, I want to make money. And I didn't really care how I did it, but I wanted to make money. And I saw a lot of people that were making a ton of money. And I met some individuals that I didn't feel really smarter than I was at that point in time. And I said, well, if they can do it, then I can do this. And I asked him at that point, he became my mentor. I asked him if he wouldn't mind taking me underneath his wing and letting me learn the business. And so that's what we did. I basically followed him around like a little birdie for an entire year, and literally went to broker appointments with him, tenant signings, meeting with his rehab crews and things of that nature, and just literally just tagged along with him whenever I could in between my classes and in between bartending. And that's what I did for a year. After about a year, I started investing in single-family homes in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and the rest is really history. I mean, I invested in single-family homes for a number of years up there before moving to Florida in 2002. And then in 2002, when I moved here, I really put things in full swing. I mean, it became my full-time business, and I just ramped up really quick. That was kind of at the beginning of the uprun of the market that we had, of the past cycle, and just had a lot of fun, made a ton of money, did a lot of transactions, and here we are today.
Kevin, what attracts you to real estate today? I mean, it seems like in the very beginning you just had no direction and it just fell into your lap. Mm-hmm. But now, what's the big attraction for you for real estate?
I love the deal. I mean, I call it the art of the deal. I know that's Donald Trump's trademark, but call it the art of the deal. I really enjoy finding great opportunities, kind of uncovering great opportunities where others might not see an opportunity. So I enjoy putting the deals together. I enjoy the negotiation part of the business. And then I love love the income that it produces. I mean, I love being able to buy a property that can create long-term, sustainable, and stable passive income streams. And I don't necessarily like the word passive because nothing's really passive. There's not many investments out there that are passive. So I like the sustainable cash flow that real estate provides me and my family. So that's the biggest part of it. And also, I enjoy putting the deal together as well.
You remember your first deal?
I do. It was a crappy, rundown row home in downtown Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Count it.
It was, it was a war zone. I didn't know too much about war zones. I kind of knew what the idea was, and I made money on it. I didn't lose any money, but it was I paid under $20,000 for it. I don't remember the exact number, and I think I put probably about $7,000 or $8,000 into it. And at that point in time, I was just following the model of what my mentor had been doing, and he was more of a buy and hold type of guy. He just had single family and small multifamily rentals. He didn't do a lot of fixing and flipping, and so I just really followed his model. And I bought that property and I kept it for about a year and a half before selling it. And then I also wholesaled some properties and flipped as well. But my whole goal was to buy and hold. And so that one, about a year and a half into it, I realized after turning like 3 tenants in that short period of time that it really wasn't the ideal market to do a buy and hold. It just was a rough crowd. And I was a young guy. I didn't really have an interest in getting in confrontations or conflicts, and I was actually managing the property. So I definitely remember that one. That one's burned in my mind, and I don't think it'll ever leave.
It got you in the game, though. Hey,
yeah,
right?
it got me in the game. Absolutely. Yeah. Just put both feet in the fire, man, right away.
Way to do it.
Can you tell the listeners? I mean, how did you get into that deal? Was it brought to you? Did your mentor let you do it? I mean, it
was a wholesale deal that one of his relationships had brought to me, and I believe it was it was a private money lender that he had borrowed money from, that had borrowed a lot of money from, had brought him the deal. He didn't really like it. It didn't really fit his portfolio. And for me, I was so excited to get a deal done. He was like, I don't think you should go in that area. I listened to him up until that point, and I was like, so hungry to do a deal, and it was I had enough money to do it. I borrowed a little bit, but I had some money saved up, and it was such a low price deal. I was like, oh, how can I not lose in this thing, right? I mean, I'm going to do this deal whether you think it's a good idea or not. And so that's how it was brought to us by a wholesaler. He made a $1,002 assignment fee, and I got a private loan on it through one of his resources, and did the deal. So it was against his knowledge and his wisdom and his advisement, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And I didn't lose money, but it was a little bit of a headache. So I really, looking back, I should have listened to him.
So what were the takeaways of the learning lessons? Because you spent $20,000 on an education. I think, basically you broke even. So it's like going to college for a year and a half, not paying anything. I mean, you're taking your lumps. So what were the big takeaways off that first deal?
Don't buy in a war zone. And listen to your mentors who have been there and done that. Those are it. Don't buy in a war zone, and listen to your mentors who have been there and done that. If there's experts that are kind of guiding you along your path, and you want to do what they've done and have the success that they've had, then listen to them. Take their advice, and that's what they're there for. And so I didn't. I went against his advice, and I actually made some money on it. So I think after it was all said and done, when I did sell that property, I think I walked away with, just under $8,000 of profit. So I didn't lose money. I lost some sleep, and I probably got some gray hairs prematurely in my life, but it was a good deal. I mean, I learned a lot from it, but I definitely wish I would have just taken his advice and waited for that next deal to come along. Because as you guys know, we're all anxious in the beginning to get a deal done. But if you're just patient and you really have your set criteria, and you wait for that deal to come along that fits your criteria, rather than kind of wavering a little bit or going outside of the criteria you set for yourself and making exceptions, then the deal will come, right? If you're out there looking hard enough, the deal will come to you. And I didn't wait, but I made some money, and I've learned some lessons, and I moved on from that point in time.
The discipline is tough in the beginning because you want to get into it. That's
absolutely cool. It is. Yep.
So what's your investment strategy today? What investment strategy do you employ?
Well, we've made some changes over the years, and so for a period of I'd say, so was about 6 or 7 years, I mostly invested in just single family homes. That was my business. I moved to Florida in 2002 and really got involved with a few partners, and we built a big machine, and we were buying a ton of single family homes and smaller multifamilies. We did own some larger, not larger apartments. In the grand scheme, they were still smaller apartments, but 24, 28 unit, a 36 unit, and we had a few other ones as well. But so we mostly owned single family homes, long-term rental strategy here in Florida, and then we also had some multifamily peppered in there as well. But that was primarily what we focused on up until the crash of 2007, 2008. And in that crash, we lost pretty much everything, minus the apartments, but we lost pretty much everything. After that point in time, I kind of took a hiatus for a few years, started a couple other businesses, and jumped back into real estate late 2010. And at that point, after looking back on my business, I realized that, number one, I wanted to be a multifamily. Our multifamily properties were the best performers of the bunch that we had, between that and the single family. And for some reason, we never put we never put a large emphasis on buying the multifamily. They just fell in our laps. And so looking back, if we'd have put the same amount of effort into buying the multifamily, we would have done much better off, and we probably would have weathered the storm a little bit better in 2008. So moving forward, I knew I wanted to be multifamily and was introduced to the mobile home park industry before I had jumped back in. And I realized that there were some unique barriers to entry that existed and some unique aspects of that particular industry that I liked versus apartments. And so from that point forward until today, the only thing we bought, other than a few other side investments, like I bought a small apartment in an office building, things like that here over the past 5 years. But since that point of 2010 to today, other than that small office and apartment building, all we've purchased were mobile home parks. And so that is our business today. We own and operate just under 1,000 units of mobile home spaces here in the eastern half of the U.S. And we buy for long-term cash flow. Our strategy is long-term cash flow. We're not in and out type guys. We buy things that make money today and have a lot of upside potential to make money, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And so that's how our business is really taking a complete 180 turn, because now we're not in single family whatsoever. In fact, I won't even.
What happened during the crash, though? You said you basically busted out. What caused? I mean, obviously, no. Yeah. What was the driver of that?
I mean, Southwest Florida basically was ground zero for the crash, and so one of the big reasonings were. And we had a lot of equity. I mean, we weren't buying things at retail prices. I mean, we were buying things at 60 cents on the dollar. But the big challenge that we ran into down here is, number one, there were just a ridiculous amount of spec builders that were building basically phantom houses for a phantom population. And so as soon as the crisis started setting in, a lot of these builders that had thousands upon thousands of spec homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage block homes, they started renting these things out for even less than what we were renting our homes that were 20 years old or 25 years old. And so they were just trying to band-aid their wounds. No one knew how long this crash was going to go on for. And so they were just trying to pay their construction debt. And so we had this mass exodus. That was one of the big reasons. We had a mass exodus in our rental properties. And then, that became unsustainable. I mean, we had debt on these properties,
basically, and then so the high end stuff, if you want to call it the A's, if you will, you're basically competing with them with C assets essentially.
Yeah, and they were putting anyone in. I mean, if you could fog a mirror, you could get in and rent a brand home that had never been lived in.
So it's like the same problem, the same thing that caused the crash. Everyone was getting in on loans, right? And now everyone's getting in on these, and they shouldn't be rent. Wow, it's just like doubling down. That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. So. That was part of it. There's other reasons. I mean, the rental rates actually decreased a little bit for a slight period of time. I know a lot of people talk about how they had the best rental years ever, when the crash happened, because everyone was losing their home and renting places. Well, that wasn't necessarily true for the first couple of years in Southwest Florida. We actually had a decrease in rental rates for a period of time, and it just wasn't sustainable for us. We have debt on our properties, and so there's only so many months where you can go where you're writing checks for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to make up for the the negative cash flow. And so at a certain point, we looked and we said, there's no way we can sustain this, and we need to pull the cord quickly, or we'll be out of cash, not knowing how long this is going to go on for. And we had a feeling that it was going to last a little bit longer than what we even had anticipated it lasting. And we tried to actually sell off. We started trying to fire sale things probably like 5 or 6 months in, but it literally went downhill so fast that even trying to fire sale our properties, at 70 cents on the dollar, just trying to get out with a little bit of equity, it didn't. I mean, we sold some, but not enough to make an impact. So it was a crash and burn.
Wow. You scaled up so quickly, 1,000 units in 5 years. I mean, how have you built your teams? I mean, how did you scale your business so quickly in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not 100% owner of all 1,000 units. I mean, when I got into the mobile home park business, I did bring a mentor in that had been in the industry for 30 plus years, and so I am a small partner in a few of the larger projects that he's done. And then after like the first year of being involved with him, I really brought him on our team so that I didn't make any mistakes on some of our first acquisitions. And so I co-invested with him on on a few larger deals, and then from that point forward, he's been a very small portion of the deals that we've done moving forward in our business. So I wouldn't, we do own 1,000 units, but about 450 of those I'm a minority owner is the best way to put it. So just to be clear with everyone on the show, I didn't go out and become 100% owner of 1,000 units in 5 years. I mean, that would be a great feat, but I'm not going to take credit for it because it wasn't all me. So, how we did is we brought a strong player on the team in the beginning, someone with industry experience that had resources and connections, and just made sure that we learned the business inside and out by again having him as an advisor, but also co-investing with him on a few deals, and then just getting out there and ramping it up from an acquisition standpoint on our own. And we had capital that we were working with in the beginning. I did actually make it through the crash with some money, and had some a couple of businesses that we had created during the period where we weren't investing in real estate, 2009, 2010. Had started 2 businesses that had been quite successful, and so we were ready to buy, and we were just aching to get out there and acquire some of our own opportunities. So up until this point, it's been all of our own money. We do have a fund that we have set up, and we are raising capital inside that fund. But up until this point in time, it has been our own money, along with debt financing from banks.
Can you talk a little bit about the multifamily model? Jake and I love the model. I mean, if you started buying in 10, you probably got great prices. And now I think over the last 18 to 24 months, people have woken up to it and said, wow, this is an awesome cash flow machine. There's a lot of owner financing in them. I love them. Can you just go into that model a little bit for us?
Yeah, you mean the mobile home park model?
Yep.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's very similar to multifamily. I mean, it is multifamily, right? So it's in that same asset class, just a different category. And so there's a couple different variations of the model. So I'll kind of give you the 3 variations, and we actually own each one of these variations. So the first variation of a mobile home park would be where the owner actually the park owner owns just the park itself and the dirt, and he owns the infrastructure, and he rents the lots out. So all the homes or all the trailers that are on the property are owned by the residents, and they actually just pay a monthly lot rent, and the park owner's responsibility is to upkeep basically the streets, the sewer lines, the water lines, things of that nature. So just the infrastructure itself. That's the best model. That really is. I mean, there really is not a lot of operational upkeep, and it's not very difficult to run a community like that. And so that is the ideal variation that you want to be involved in. Now, with that being said, this industry has changed over the years, and so although that was the initial model back when parks were built back in the 50s and 60s, in the 70s as well, they have changed over time. And so what has happened is you've got individuals that pass. Their heirs don't want their trailers, and so the park ends up buying these things back. And so slowly but surely, what you'll find is you'll see parks out there that are what we like to call a hybrid model. They'll have some tenant-owned homes where they just rent lots, and they'll have units in there that the park owns. And so trailers that are either straight rentals, or the park might be selling them back on some kind of creative financing, like a rent-to-own or a lease option. And so that is a hybrid model. We do own a few parks like that. It's almost inevitable to that you don't come across a park that doesn't have some type of park-owned units, meaning like you're going to acquire a trailer or 2, or maybe more than that when you buy the park.
I've heard a mixed review on that because Gino and I have looked at the mobile home model. We've dealt with we know like Jim Clayton, for example, Clayton Homes, and Yes actually came in and bought a lot of those communities in our area. And it seems that the ones that we've looked at, you got a lot of these hybrids out there. But the thing is that also happens is it seems like some of these people end up not being able to afford it, or they can't move the trailer because it's too expensive. So a lot of times you may be doing lot rentals, but get the trailer back with the lot for a very reasonable discounted price, so that you can actually rent the lot plus the trailer, where the acquisition of the actual or mobile home, did not cost very much. Do you see that a lot in your business? That's correct.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the typical person that lives in a park, and now when I'm talking about the parks that we own, they're family style parks, and so we're geared towards the lower income demographic. It's affordable housing. It's clean, safe, quiet, affordable housing. So, and I don't want to confuse it with there's some really higher end parks. I live in Florida, and we have some parks here that are the lot rents are $700-800 a month, and they have 3 swimming pools. They have huge shuffleboard courts. I mean, they're like miniature blue collar country clubs is what they are. Yeah. And so which isn't necessarily affordable living, right? It's just not. And so we own parks that are affordable living type scenarios where people make, I'd say combined household incomes of, under $36,000 a year. And so they don't typically have the amount of money that it costs to move a home. If they're going to leave the park for whatever reason, maybe they just can't afford it, maybe it's a job transfer. A lot of times, if it's a single wide, it's going to cost them $3,000 or so to move it to another park that's local. And a lot of them just don't have that type of money. They just don't have $3,000 sitting in their bank account. So what happens is they either, number one, they either sell it to an outside party that's going to live in the park, or typically what we do is we tell them to give us the first right of refusal. Come to us, we'll make you a fair offer on it. Sometimes they even give it to us. If it's an older home, it's just not really worth much, and maybe we don't even really want it. And we just say, hey, I'll take it off your hands, sign the title over to us. Maybe I'll give you $100, and it would just take the headache off your plate. Because if you leave it here, you're going to have to continue paying us lot rent. And so, just sign it over. We'll take it, and we'll do whatever we want to do with it.
And it's like selling somebody a car, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's personal property. Yep. Just recently we had one in one of our parks. It was owned by an outside party, and she had it as a rental in the park. And so her tenant was paying, obviously, I think $5 or $5.50 a month. She was paying us lot rent. Well, she ended up having the squatter that moved in, and she just didn't know what to do. She thought this thing was an investment for her. She was like a waitress, and so she had never gone through the eviction process. Literally did not know what to do. And I said, look, if you want, I'll take us over. It's probably going to cost $1,000 or $1,500 for us to get them out of. Obviously, we lost rents for us and things like that. But if you wanted to sign us this thing over, we'll take it off your hands. And she tried to sell it to us for like $5,000 or $6,000, and it actually was worth that. But I knew that we were going to have a timely situation on our hands with getting a squatter out, and then there was going to be a massive rehab on top of that because the squatter didn't have water or sewer or electric on in this unit, and they were living in it. So I knew it was going to be quite gross when they left. And so she actually just ended up giving it to us, and then we turned around, literally got the squatter out in about a month and a half, and sold it. I never even walked inside that trailer. I sold it as is to a local guy that was buying it for his daughter. He was going to do the fix up. I sold for $3,500, which was a good deal for him. He did the rehab, and now they're paying lot rent. So you can make
that's an interesting strategy to roll it into a lot rental instead of having it as a hybrid.
That's typically what we try to do. That's an ideal scenario. So we bought a park back in November 2015. With the park, we acquired, I think, 25 trailers, 25 units that were just strictly rentals at that point in time. And as they turned, and we actually had a big turn when we bought this park because we raised rents, started enforcing rules, and we had a good bit of people that left. And from that point till today, in that park, we've sold, I believe, a dozen of those units for cash. Meaning, like, we had people that came in and just paid us cash that wanted to be lot renters, and then we sold, I think, another 4 or 5 on rent-to-own terms. And so our goal is to get out from underneath the rental aspect of it because we really just don't want to handle the repairs and maintenance that goes along with it. It's just there's not a lot of profit in the rental side of it. So when you actually separate out the lot rent portion from the rental portion of the trailer, once you add in repairs and maintenance of ACs, roofs, flooring, and just everything goes along with having a rental. At the end of the day, there's not a lot of profit in that model of owning a park. And a lot of park owners will argue with me on that, but if you actually don't defer maintenance on your units and you take care of them like you should, there's not a lot of profit left over. And you have to have more manpower. You have to have maintenance guys on staff, you have HVAC guys, plumbers on staff or on hand to actually go repair those types of things. And it just becomes a little bit more of a challenging business to run.
You can create a nice win-win situation with these things because people can get in. Jake likes to call it modern affordability. They can get into a basic house for $3,500. You're making cash. They're getting a good deal, and then basically it's off your plate. So they've got a great place to live. You've got great residual income coming in. What an awesome model that is.
There's not many places in this country where you can go live. Where you can buy a unit. Our average price of a unit in that park is like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Like typically, if they're buying it cash, it'll be $10,000. It's like a ready to move in, like recently remodeled. Like we've already put new flooring, new paint, appliances, things like that. $10,000 they pay for it, and their lot rent is $240 a month. And then they do have electric, and they have water and sewer and things like that, which are just normal utility expenses. But so they own it for $10,000. They pay $240 a month. Come on. Where else can you live in this country for that type of...
You guys financing those?
No. If they have cash, then we'll sell for cash. Yeah. It was tax season recently, right? So we're in tax season. We're just getting through it. So,
for you guys,
typically people that don't have a chunk of money this time of year they do. So a lot of them actually, if they're wise about it, they'll turn around and they'll buy a house, and a lot of them have. So it was a busy couple of months for us, which we knew it when we bought that park in November that, hey, we need to get these things rehab, the ones that we're about to lose tenants, and we need to get them rehabbed ASAP and get them ready because we're going to move some units. And we brought a couple crews in, about 3 crews at a time, and renovated a dozen or more units and had them ready. And we sold them. We sold a bunch. So we still have some more to go. Basically, what's left are just rentals that were rentals when we bought the park. And so as those units or as those leases come up, as they don't renew, I mean, we'll let them in there as renters as long as they want. But once they either move out or don't renew, we'll go in and rehab it and try to sell it. Try to get out from underneath it. Whether that means doing a rent to own or just selling for a very fair cash price. Like, we don't need to make money on these trailers on the back end. If I find someone that's qualified, has a good job, stable employment, and I think they'll make a good addition to our community, I will give them a killer deal on the price, like an outright purchase on that trailer, because I really just want the lot rent.
You just want to get them in.
Goal. Yeah, they're going to take care of the unit. They're going to pay me on time. I'll break even on the trailer, from what we've got into it, just to get them in it. It means a good deal for them. They're happy. I'm happy because they're going to be a good lot renter, and everyone wins.
Wow, Kevin, where are you finding these deals?
We do not all, but 99% is at this point is direct marketing. We do utilize brokers. We have some relationships, but a lot of the things that we've purchased over the past couple of years have been a result of either direct mail or cold calling. And I'd say it's probably an equal mix of the two. We spend a lot of time building out our database. We research markets. Now we have over 100 or so markets that we've spent time researching. We've identified as strong markets based on, diverse employment, job growth, the lack of affordable housing, a lot of other factors as well. But we look for those things in particular markets, and then we look for the parks that are within that market that fit our size parameters and general criteria. And we've got a pretty massive database now that we've created, and so we know that there's a really good chance that the database we have, if we have the opportunity to buy one of those parks at the right price, we would buy it. It would fit our criteria. And so we just do a lot of direct mail. We do a lot of cold calling, and we try to keep our pipeline filled by doing those two methods. And we have brokers that work for us as well. But what we found is that we end up mailing or calling on the parks that end up being listed, and then we'll get a call from a broker saying, "Hey, like I'm the my client received one of your letters, whatever it might be, and if you have an interest, here's the information on it." So we find it's more efficient for us to go direct.
What is your criteria for buying as far as cash on cash and debt service and cap rates? Yeah,
so we don't even really look at a cap rate on the front end because it's really irrelevant, so cash on cash, our goal. From time of acquisition, and there's some exceptions here to the rule, but typically we like to know that we can get into it and have a 15% cash on cash return from day one, with the ability to push it over a 20% cash on cash return within 12 to 24 months. That's really just from a high level standpoint. That is our goal going in. We don't look at the cap rate. Sometimes we've overpaid for things. If you look at it from a cap rate standpoint, we've overpaid for things, but because we know that it's operationally inefficient at this point, we can go in and make some small changes and make it run more efficiently, thus increasing the NOI, or we can raise rents because they've been raised in 12 years. So we just in November we actually overpaid for a deal. If you look at it from a cap rate standpoint, we bought it on like a 5 cap, but literally within a matter of like 2.5-3 months, with just firing some people, reducing the payroll, raising rents, and then just keeping a hand on the expenses at hand, we're able to effectively, if you look at it from what we acquired at based on the NOI now, or what our projected NOI is for the coming year, it would have been probably like a 15 or 16 cap. So that one had a ton of upside, but if we'd have looked at it from a cap rate standpoint, we never would have bought it. And so that's it. Really just the 15% cash on cash going in, and the ability to push it over 20% in the first 12 to 24 months.
And what markets are you currently looking at? What do you think are...
A lot. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the difference with mobile home parks and apartments is apartments, you could probably pick 3 to 5 markets, and there are enough apartments in that market, those 3 to 5 marketplaces, that will keep you busy if you're really diligent about, doing your prospecting and cold calling and just keeping in front of those owners, right? But there's such a small fraction of mobile home parks that exist in comparison to apartment buildings that we have to expand our reach. And so our general criteria, this is just, again, in a nutshell, our general criteria is I've got to be able to fly from Tampa Bay, where I live. I got to be able to get a direct flight to whatever airport is within a 45-minute drive of our park or our community. And so I got to be able to fly within 2.5 hours or less to an airport, and then jump in a rental car and drive less than an hour to the park. And then also we look at populations. Like the metro has to have a population of at least 100,000, which is small towns. I mean, ideally that would be the size of the metro it's in, but we also want to know that if it's in a smaller town, that it's within a 30 to 40-minute drive to a larger city that has like 250,000 people or more. And because we want to know that if they had the ability, they can commute to a larger city to get, viable employment. And so that's a general rule of thumb that we look for. And then also number of spaces. We were not really looking at anything today that has less than like 50 spaces. It just what we found is that the scales of economy that we need to hire good management and afford good management, we really need to have at least 50 spaces or more to make that happen. And that's some general criteria. And then there's a lot of other things we look for, like size of lots, the age of the park, the age of the infrastructure, how many park-owned units are there, is there a lot of deferred maintenance, things like that. So lots of other variables at play, but that's just kind of the general highlights of what we look for.
Your career has really transformed from single families into the whole mobile home park. Mm-hmm. What's your best real estate investing tip or advice for the listeners?
Focus on cash flow. Appreciation, I feel, should be icing on the cake. Like, think of it as a gift at the end of the ride. If it's there, great. If it's not, forget about it, because you've had such a good ride and you've had such sustainable cash flow put in your pocket each and every year that if you don't get the gift at the end, it doesn't matter because you actually had a gift all along the way. And so I only look at cash flow now. I could care less about, in multifamily world or commercial world, we always talk about forced appreciation. So I like the idea that we can force appreciation, but that appreciation really is only realized when you sell, when you exit out, or when you refinance. And so until then, it's just funny money, right? It's monopoly money. It's not real. It's not spendable. But the cash flow, that is spendable. That's spendable money. So if I had any advice whatsoever, and I could give myself advice going way back when, I would have said focus on cash flow and just ignore the appreciation and treat it like a gift at the end of the ride. And if it's not there, oh well.
It's funny, Kevin, because you said to yourself years ago you weren't a good student, but what makes you a genius is you learn from your mistakes. Because back in 07 and 08, nobody was focusing on cash flow, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody was. And you saw the downturn, you saw what happened, and you said, listen, I have to change my model. And now all you do is strictly focus on cash flow. And I wish a lot of the listeners would do that, because they're always into saying, I'm going to get this property, I'm going to appraise it, it's going to appreciate. Cash flow is money in your pocket, and if you don't have that, you're not going to sustain yourself. And It's amazing how you've had that transformation from buying singles, flipping them, and that's a great model when you first start to get some chunks of cash. But if you can get into the cash flow, it's just such a much more sustainable model. Absolutely, and that's why nothing against it. That's why I really don't like single family investing, either from a wholesaler standpoint. I know a lot of people get into wholesaling because it's an easy entry point. You don't need a lot of capital to get involved, or they get into fix and flips. But at the end of the day, both of those models are jobs, and you got to do the next deal. You always have to be doing that next deal, and you're also playing with fix and flips. I mean, it's like a game of hot potato, right? I mean, right now we're in this great market again. Everyone's talking about things that only go up, and people are starting to push their parameters a little bit. Like, whereas maybe 2 years ago they would buy at 65 cents in a dollar, now they're buying at 75 cents in a dollar, and their whole plan is exiting out. And what happens when they can't exit out in time and they're stuck with a $300,000 or $400,000 property that they can't sell? Values drop, or the market slows down. Well, they got a lot of holding costs that will eat up their profit, and I don't like that model. I like focusing on the now and buying. I mean, essentially, when we buy multifamily property, like you guys, we're buying a business. We're buying a viable business that is sustainable, right? And that's what I like. I know that I can depend on that cash flow month in, month out, no matter what, because I bought it right. And I didn't base my premise on buying on the what ifs of the future. Hopefully I can force this appreciation, exit out of this, and make $500,000. Well, I don't care. That's just a bonus. I want the cash flow that's happening today. So. Jake, Kevin, be part of Jake and Gino are here with the actuals, buying on actuals, buying for 10%, 15% cash on cash. He sounds like our partner, Jake.
Guys, you kill me, because I feel like since we're on a podcast right now and you guys can't see me, I've been in the back of the room with my hand up for the last 15 minutes, like trying to ask a question, and I finally am here now. And Kevin, you said
sorry,
something.
I talk a lot. I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
you
it's
have to
great,
interrupt me
Gino. But the
sometimes.
problem is that so Gino and I are in multifamily, and we've talked about mobile homes before. So getting on this, you're throwing all these answers out there to things that we're not so sure about because we haven't been in that space, but we know people that are in the space. So when we talk about it, we get super excited and we start peppering with questions. But okay, so you said something almost in the beginning, and I've just been trying to get this out. I'm so excited. You said there's a barrier to entry in mobile homes, and that is so real. And the people that I know that own mobile homes have talked about it because it's almost like once they get in it, they never want to leave. So can you just speak to that, the barrier to entry to mobile homes, why people don't sell them, and what you've done to overcome that?
Well, one of the big barriers to entry is when you're comparing it to like an apartment building or any other type of commercial asset, whatever it might be, because I think mobile home parks, it's the only one that exists that has this barrier to entry, in that they got a bad rap, years and years ago, and rightfully so, because a lot of mobile home park owners are essentially slumlords, and they don't run them correctly, and they've got drugs, sex, and rock and roll inside these parks, and the cities don't like them.
Right.
So towns, cities, local municipalities, they don't like parks, and so what the result of that is that they do not issue permits to have new parks built. And so if you went into a city that had a 5-acre piece of land and there were other parks in that town, and you said, hey guys, I want to build a mobile home park, there's a pretty good chance that they would decline your proposal. And so what that means is that mobile home parks actually are going away, meaning they're being either shut down for different reasons. Maybe it's a health department reason, they haven't been run properly, the health department shuts them down, or maybe the business owner has just kind of aged out of it and they did a terrible job for the last 10 years and the park just slowly dwindled away until it shut down, right? Or maybe a developer purchased the park because there's higher and better use to the land, and they know that it's more viable as a retail shopping center instead of a mobile home park, so they buy it, shut it down, build a shopping center on top of that land. So there's different reasons that these things get shut down or go away, and that's actually happening faster than they're being built. Now, I don't know what the exact stats were for 2015, but I know as of 2014, because I just don't pay attention to it, but as of 2014, I think there were only 5 mobile home parks built in the United States. And I don't know how many hundreds went away, or maybe even thousands went away. And the total number, this is just, again, stats that were given to me. I don't know if there's any way to truly, confirm this data, but I think there's about 50,000 mobile home parks in the United States as of a year or two ago. That number is not going to increase; it's only going to decrease. And so, big barrier to entry, that if you buy a park and you buy it in a good market and you do a good job at running it, you do not have to worry about a competitor building a new park right down the road. I mean, massive barrier to entry there, because if you're buying in the right type of market, you're buying in a market that has a lack of affordable housing. And so you're kind of this little niche, and you're like this affordable haven for the families that want to raise their families and have a clean, safe, quiet place to live. Well, you don't have to worry about that safe haven, someone else coming in and creating a new safe haven for them where you can get this, exodus from your park and moved into the newer, nicer community. You don't have to worry about that. So that's nice. I like knowing that.
So
it's a good feeling.
It's great. So how hard is it then getting into these deals and finding them and actually, finding a 15% cash on cash return? It can't be easy.
It's as with anything, as you guys know, we're just in a more competitive landscape.
Yeah.
Everyone's chasing yields, and so the same type of competition exists with mobile home parks, finding good opportunities. But as you guys know, being apartment buyers, it's all about timing, right? I mean, you just got to be out there prospecting left and right, and it is harder today than it was, 2 or 3 years ago to find great opportunities. At least what we define as a great opportunity, and so. We just, like I said, we just do a ton of direct mail. We do a lot of follow up with, park owners that maybe aren't ready to sell today, but, think they might want to sell a couple years down the road. We just stay in contact with them. So we're finding deals. I mean, we're about to close on a 51 space park in North Carolina, and Rayford, North Carolina, which is like the new growth market of Fayetteville. So it's like where all the new growth is happening. It's, in fact, it's in Hoke County, which is the fastest growing county in North Carolina. And, it's a deal that literally, I think I mailed this lady originally over 2 years ago, and had started my dialogue with her. She actually sent me a letter back. Instead of calling me, she sent me a letter back. And I started a dialogue with her over 2 years ago, and it literally took until, I don't know, about a month and a half ago, until we actually got a contract executed with her. But she just wasn't ready to sell yet. I mean, we even negotiated price and terms over a year ago, and she's owner financing it for us because she actually gets the benefit. I mean, she owns it free and clear. She understands the benefit of, creating like a recurring income stream for herself as she moves on to other projects. She's older, but she's got some self-storage projects and things like that. But so to her, she understood the benefit of the owner financing. She wanted to kind of mitigate her capital gains exposure, and she wanted the continual income, and obviously the interest income that she creates is substantial as well over the period of 7 years that we have before we hit our balloon. And so with her, it's just been a long-term process of follow-up and keeping in touch. And that one, we got a phenomenal deal on it. We're paying, I believe it's $620,000. We've got it's a 20-year amortization. I'm trying to think of the numbers here. 6% interest rate. We're putting $200,000 down, so whatever that is, like 26 or 27% down. And that one, going into it, we're going to do just from day one. It's going to have about a 20% cash on cash return from day one, and her rents are about 25 or 30% below market. Like her lot rents in this park, wow. I think they're 174. It's like an odd number. It's not like an even number. 174, and they haven't been raised in a long time. The market rents are 250 in that market. I mean, every other park, and hers is actually one of the nicer parks. It's surrounded by brand new $250,000 homes. I literally flanked. She's like the one property that didn't sell out to these developers, and so it's surrounded by $250,000 plus single family homes. It's pretty interesting to look at on an aerial.
When you refi this property, you got a 20-year amort. When you refi it or whatever, you push the rate and you get the rate down. And this thing can really be a monster cash cow, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, even from now, I mean, we're going to go in, and what we found is it's more effective to just go in and raise rents right away instead of doing it like, instead of taking them to like 210 or 220 and then 6 months later taking them to 250. We're just going to go in because we know we might. There's a chance we might lose one or two people, but I'd rather lose them now and then get the rents in place where they need to be per the market, because we know they can't move anywhere else cheaper, right? I mean, if they go to a competitor, it's going to be 250. And so we're going to go in and bump the rents right away. As soon as we bump those rates to 250, and there's some rental trailers in this park I don't factor into the equation because I said there's not a lot of profit in the rental side, but we're actually acquiring, I think there's 18 units with that park. So there is some other income that I'm not even factoring into my cash on cash that it really will add to it, but it will go away at some point as we sell those units. But after we raise those rents, I believe, based on the leverage that we're going to have in place, I believe our cash on cash is going to be, upwards of 25, 26%, something like that. I mean, it's pretty substantial. And you're right. Once we refi, I mean, it's a 20-year AM, so we'll make a pretty significant pay down in those 7 years. And, depending what the capital markets look like at that point in time, what rates are at. But, I mean, either way, we'll have a...
She might give you an extension. You don't know.
Yeah, actually, she probably will. I mean... She actually wanted me to put a prepay in there because she wanted to make sure that we didn't cash her out. Yeah, I mean, she wanted to make sure we didn't cash her out. And so I made sure that we got very favorable terms on our end. And so, we did actually put a prepay of some sort. I forget what it was. But on the front end, I made sure that it was favorable terms for us, knowing that we're not going to be able to cash this thing out. But, it's a win-win. She's happy. We're happy. There's a ton of upside, but that one came from a direct mailer that we had sent out.
She qualified you. You were selling her for 2 years, but she was making sure you were legit, so she didn't jump right into bed with you right away. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not even that. It's funny because I've got two other partners in this deal, and we just about 2 weeks ago, she finally said, "Okay, well, I got to do my due diligence on you guys." And I'm like, "What are you talking about, Shelly? You've seen everything. At least for me,
Shell.
You've seen everything. Yeah, you've seen my credit. You've seen my financial statement." And she's like, "Why don't you see your partners?" And so we've literally, for this small deal, it's a small deal in the grand scheme of things, but all three of us had to provide her with financial statements and tax returns and all that kind of stuff. So she actually did her homework, which is.
Hey, but listen, it's a small deal. But when there's 50,000 communities and they're declining, you gotta really take them all seriously, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, she did her homework, which is good, what she should have done. And so that was an owner finance deal. We've got a couple of deals in the pipe that are very similar in nature of how we found them, and very similar cash on cash returns, and actually very similar upsides. We've got a couple deals that one in Kentucky right now that the rents literally I don't know how long it's been since he raised rents, but they're at $155 a month right now, and they should be like $250 a month. And it's a really nice park. Just well maintained in the city limits, and it's just all lot renters actually. So it's like that ideal scenario I was telling you about. He has not owned one of the homes in this park, and so it's all lot renters. They've been there a long time, and that one's going to be an easy deal to just go and literally bump the rents to the market. And more than likely, we won't lose anyone in that park because they can't afford to move their home. And so we're just going to bring it to market. We'll get some gripes and some complaints, some people that are mad, but they'll forget about it after
when you're bringing it to market. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, that's it. When we send them the letter, we actually include the competitors like on the list. Okay,
Smart.
well, here's what, ABC Mobile Home Park down the road charges. Here's their phone number. Feel free to call them. Give them the option. If they want to call around, they want to move, go for it. But
they're going to call around. That's
sure.
What's great about these deals is we're saying that these are small deals, but can you imagine if you're first starting out and you're buying the 50 unit? That's a life-changing deal for anybody who's starting out. I mean, right away, you can basically, one or two of these deals, the average person can basically cash out of their lives, get out of the rat race, and make this thing a full-time endeavor. So, we like to glance over. We have a ton of units. You have a ton of units. But for anybody listening, that first deal, I mean, it might take you a long time to get it. It took Jake and I 2 years to get it. We need to get educated. Obviously, it took you years to get educated. But that one deal can really set you free, and it just gets that momentum going. Today it's 50 units. Next year it's 100 units. So we can't, underscore the power of doing that one deal,
No, I agree with you guys. I mean, not the very first deal. One of the first parks that we purchased, and it's actually still the smallest in our entire portfolio, is by far the best performer when you look at it from a cash on cash perspective. It's a small 35 space park in Atlanta. We paid $200,000 for it. It was a bank REO, and it's a very unique situation. But long story short, we actually own all the units in it. We're working on selling them all off on rent-to-own terms, but the place was basically vacant. We bought it, needed massive rehab, so it was a big project. Took a lot of our capital to do it, but we have about $375,000 tied up into it. And the thing, number one, from a cash flow perspective, the thing has a net operating income actually after debt service. So it has a cash flow after debt service of about $95,000 a year.
Wow.
And we're working on a refi right now, so we're about to get our cash out of it. We got about 175 of our own capital tied up in it, but once we get our cash back out of it, look at the returns. I mean, we literally have zero money tied up into it. We're going to have a loan amount of about $400K. Park's worth about $1.1 million, and it throws off a lot of income each month. And so any average person could have done that deal. If they're making $80,000 a year, they got some savings built up, they could have done that deal, and it literally could have replaced their income, the salaried income that they were on.
It takes creativity and it takes thinking outside the box, which a lot of people don't have. But if people have those two, they can make a ton of money in this business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, guys. Absolutely.
So I'm going to pull the e-brake real quick. We're going to do a quick 180 transition to some general business stuff because we like to get into that as well. So what is your best habit for success?
I really pair if I could pick one of many, right? I mean, because I have a bunch, but one big thing that works for me, this is just for me, is I pair exercise and a healthy lifestyle with my success. I attribute a lot of my success to that, and so I do a lot of workouts early in the morning before I start my work day. Do a ton of running, ton of cardio, a ton of cycling, and I watch what I eat and I make sure that I eat healthy diets. And I feel like that literally, at least for me, I can tell how my brain functions based on what my diet's been like for the past day or week, and so or if I've exercised or not. And so my brain is a lot foggier. It doesn't work as well when I don't exercise or I don't eat healthy. And so that's been a big component of my success. And I've been trying to live a healthy lifestyle for the past 12 to 15 years. And I feel like that's been a big factor in my overall success. So, and there's a lot of other reasoning as well, but that's a big one.
Man, I'm with you. I'm always trying to get my workouts in, and then Gino's like, "No, we got more work to do." And I'm like, "Man, come on, let me just work out for a few minutes, bro. Come on, man."
Yeah, I'm more efficient. I'll get more work done if you let me go exercise. In fact, I'm kind of bummed because normally I do these. I actually record my podcast as well on Tuesdays. The day we're recording this, and it's one of my days. I actually get up and I go on a really long ride in the morning. I wake up at like 4:00 in the morning and get like 50 miles in on my bike before I even before the house even wakes up, before my wife and my son wake up. But for some reason, I went to bed last night and I forgot to set my alarm, and I was so upset when I woke up this morning. I'm like, darn it, my brain's not going to work as well today, but it's on point, I think. So,
no, you're doing great, man. What's been the biggest mistake that you've made in the business?
I made a lot of them. I make them all the time, right? But probably the one of the biggest ones was not focusing on the cash flow.
I knew you were going to say that. After all this, I knew it. Yeah.
I feel like I would have. Although I've kind of recovered and I've rebuilt again, that span from like 2007 to 2011 was a terrible time in my life. It really was. It was. I literally had not much left at all. I was pretty much newly married. It was just a really challenging time, and I'd stuck my head in the sand for a few years, and just not knowing what to do. And like I said, we started a few other businesses, but I really loved real estate. But I was frightened. I was just wondering.
That was a scary story that you told us. Yeah,
is the world ending? Because it's hard to get outside of your little bubble and see. And everyone knows. Everyone knows that you buy low, sell high, right? I mean, everyone just knows that common theory of you buy low, sell high, and I knew it too. But when you're actually in it, it's a little different. So I should have actually got out of my zone, my head in the sand. I should have pulled back and started figuring out how to buy again, buy at the bottom of the market. But I didn't anyway. So to go back, I would have said focus on the cash flow, focus on multifamily. Focus on commercial or multifamily. Forget about the effort into these single-family homes, because the amount of effort it took us to buy as many single-family homes as we did, if we'd have applied that same amount of effort, energy, and time into buying multifamily, whether it be apartments or mobile home parks, our portfolio, number one, would have sustained the crash, and number two, it would have been probably quadruple the size, because it takes the same amount of effort and energy to buy one single-family home as it does to buy one mobile home park, right? I mean, or one apartment building. And so that's what I would have told myself if I could have gone back in time. That was the big mistake, not focusing enough on the cash flow.
What's your favorite book, favorite business book, favorite real estate book?
I got a ton of them, but I mean, I'm just going to go back to the classic, because I think it's set really the basis of everything that I've done to date. And I read it back when I was 20 years old, back when I was first getting started, because it was recommended to me by my mentor, and that was Think and Grow Rich. I mean, it's a classic. I've read it multiple times over again, and it's by far the best book for anyone that's getting into this business or thinking about getting in as a real estate investor. It just really sets the home base of where they're at in their life and where they want to be, and gives them kind of a guided path to get there. So definitely Think and Grow Rich.
Got it on the shelf behind me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine's all beat up and tattered, but it's still on my shelf. I'm staring at it right now as well. It's pretty rough. I don't even know if you can read the cover anymore.
See, that's the thing. I can't read, so I get the audiobook. I get the CDs. Yeah. So, because bad student too. So
my challenge. I like audiobooks. My challenge is the narrators suck most of the time, and so I have a hard time when it's like a monotone narrator.
Yeah, but think about it. So I do on the iPhone. I do Audible, and I just got a bike and started writing too. So I've been jamming out, like at 45 minutes of Audible and just learning and riding at the same time.
Good deal.
Pretty cool. Yeah,
great
it's been
time. Great time to get it in.
Yeah. Wow, this has been awesome. How can listeners get a hold of you?
The best way to reach me is just kevin@kevinbupp.com. That's my email address, or you can go to my website, which is kevinbupp.com. So it's pretty easy.
We do the same thing. It, man. No reason to make it complicated. But yeah, I took a ton of notes because I was, I'm so into this mobile home stuff. It's just we're just focused on our niche, and we haven't really shifted in that direction. But someday.
But you shouldn't shift though. That's another piece of advice I'll give. I mean, I know. For some people, it works to kind of be the jack of all trades, and they might own an office building, an apartment building, a self-storage facility, and it seems like they do great, and they might do great, right? I mean, because some people, I guess, just have a knack for multitasking in that big way. But for me, what I found is that I do best when I focus on one thing and become the expert at one thing. And for us today, that is mobile home parks. And so although I would consider investing in an apartment building, if someone brought it to me, I would definitely look at it. But we are not out there shopping for them. We're not actively looking for them. I want mobile home parks. I feel like I'm an expert at it, and I'm really good at it, but that's all we focus on. And so if I could give any last advice, that would be it. Just pick whatever it is you're going to invest in, whether it is apartments, self-storage, mobile home parks, office buildings, shopping centers, and just become the best you possibly can be at that one niche, and be successful at that first before you think about diluting your focus and doing something else. Because there's 1,001 different ways to make money in real estate. And you just pick one and be the best at it.
It's great advice, because I think I actually had that realization last summer. I was driving to Chattanooga or something, and I was looking at a couple apartment deals, and on the way back I stopped and looked at some mobile homes, and it just it was becoming too much. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of shutting it down. But I agree with you, though. If someone brought me a great mobile home deal, I'd definitely look at it. It's just they're not doing that because these things are hard to get into, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as with anything else. I mean, just like apartments are hard to get into, they're hard until you get into one.
I guess that's
right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But again, though, I took some a bunch of notes. I thought it was funny in the beginning. Bad student, good son. I was cracking up about that. Don't buy in a war zone. Listen to your mentors. focus on multifamilies, focus on the cash flow. And you said your apartments made it through the crash, but the rest of it didn't, right? The multifamily did.
Correct.
You talked about the different types of mobile homes. So if people are interested, you got your lot rentals, your hybrids, and then your sort of traditional where you're managing and the people you're owning the actual mobile home itself plus the lot.
Correct.
15% cash on cash returns. Again, focus on the cash flow. Get healthy. Healthy lifestyle, healthy mind, healthy business, and Think and Grow Rich. Love that book. So,
yep. That's it in a nutshell.
That is it.
We covered a lot in that short period of time.
That is Kevin Bupp in a nutshell. So
that
cool,
is
man.
Kevin Bupp in a nutshell. Yep, absolutely.
Hey, it's been great having you. Thank you so much. Look forward to doing this again in the future, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you guys for having me on the show. Great show, by the way. And like I told you in the beginning, I listen to all your shows, and I thank you for sharing your advice and your wisdom each and every week with everyone. So it's great. It's great advice, and so just keep on doing what you're doing. And I look forward to coming back on another show sometime in the future.
We'll do it.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.